What is up, my peoples? Joshua Smith here with another GSD podcast where I interview top entrepreneurs, top health and fitness professionals, and people that dominate their space and choose to create the life that they want. These are people that do not make excuses, but instead have clarity on what they want in life and choose to turn their dreams into a reality. So real quick, you guys, I need some big favors. If you could please go to, if you haven't already, please go to joshuasmithgsd.com, www.joshuasmithgsd.com. Subscribe. On there, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, all of our social media sites, see what's going on with us. We post all these interviews in there as well to allow it where you get emailed these instantly. And if you're listening on iTunes and Stitcher, this is another huge favor. We provide this awesome free content for you guys, and in return, I'm just asking for really these couple favors. Go in there, give us a 5-star review, throw in some positive comments. That definitely helps with our ratings and allows us to get out there to more people in the community and hopefully impact more lives in a positive manner. So, okay, enough there, man. So, okay, I am absolutely stoked for today. Today we have on a personal friend of mine, someone I've looked up to my whole entire career. I mean, this dude, is somebody that I personally learned so much from, and I truly consider a mentor and, again, an awesome friend. So in the real estate industry, he's a legend. And every top producer on this planet knows who this guy is. He's always doing such amazing, innovative things, and I'm excited to pick his brain for the next hour or so. So he does every single year consistently roughly about $70 million in gross volume every single year. And it doesn't matter what's going on in the marketplace. He's located in Phoenix, Arizona. That's had some huge swings, REO short, so some big swings. And he's just consistent every single year, regardless of what's going on in the marketplace. And he's doing this without REO and all these specialized accounts, so he's consistently a hardcore top producer. But what's even more mind-blowing about him is his gross commissions earned. So when we break that down, he's earning at least 1/3 or even closer probably to about 1/2 of all other realtors and teams doing the same volume. And it really breaks down because he offers so much value to his clients that he's able to receive more commission. So he's consistently rated the 50 top Wall Street Journal agents in America, is a lead generation machine, and is also a software developer and a real estate coach, which we're going to dive in today as well. So today I'm absolutely honored to have on my good friend Curtis Johnson on the show. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, thanks, Joshua. I really appreciate being on, man. Out of all that stuff, it sounds really good, but I think the coolest thing about that is just you saying we're friends. I've learned so much from you over the time, and over the last couple of years especially. I think it's gone from just a regular friendship to complete admiration on my part to what you're able to do, and your inspiration is phenomenal. I love waking up, checking my Facebook, seeing how you're going to motivate me for the day, and just get me fired up, man.
Yeah, that's so awesome, man. It means so much to me, and I greatly appreciate those kind words, and stoked to have you on. And before we jump in, I've got a slew of questions to ask you here. Before we jump in, let's talk a little bit about, I talked in the intro about that you're in the Phoenix metro market, but the Phoenix metro market is about 100 miles across. So give us a little background and exactly what market you're in today, kind of what's going on, average price point, population, seller's market, buyer's market, all that fun stuff.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, my office is over on the East Valley, and that's where I live. I live in Chandler, office in Gilbert, and we probably do 60-70% of our business here in the East Valley. I've been in the business for about 16 years, and we've kind of done a lot of our business here. But at the same point, we do some TV, radio, different things like that kind of take the scope of it, outside. And so for probably about the last 10 years or so, we go all over the valley. So kind of as big as the footprint is of TV and radio and stuff, we'll go out and build a team to be able to handle and be able to do that. We've probably been pretty consistently over the years about 60-40, maybe even 65-35 buyers over listings. I know most mega teams are more listings than buyers, but we've just always done a little bit more buyers on that scale. Price point, pretty much, right down the average median, a little bit over 200,000. Right about 200,000 right now for our market. we just kind of do the bell curve. Where's the big turnover in the market, and we try and really just go after that.
Yeah, and just to put that in perspective, I mean, when you break it down with that average price point, your volume, I mean, that's over one house every single day that your team's selling, and you've been doing this, I don't know, for what, the past decade straight?
Yeah, it's been probably 14 years in a row, probably over 100, 150 sides and stuff like that. And it's one of those things that when our market just absolutely imploded, it was one of those challenges to kind of go, man, do we chase what everybody else is doing? Do we go into the REOs and the short sales and stuff? And obviously we had to do a lot of short sales, and we actually had some REO accounts, and we did a couple of them, and I just couldn't believe how horrible the banks treated us. And I was like, you know what? I'd actually rather just leave the business than be treated like that by the banks. And so I just told them, I think we did two or three of them. We just said, we're done, man. And we just canceled it. And they said, you're kidding me. Everybody across the country is just begging to be in here and dying. I said, you know what? I appreciate it, but I would rather go out of business than have to deal with you. And we just had to go back to your core values and what you believe in. And it was just a choice. It wasn't the people that did it were wrong. It was just my core belief that I didn't want to get into that game. And even though 70-80% of our market was kind of in that, and we had less at bats, I knew that if we picked our niche and really just kind of stayed true to what we wanted to do, we could still fight through it. And it was a hard fight, but I was still pretty impressed with what our team was able to do.
Yeah, and this is something I don't want to jump ahead because this is a question that I have for later in the interview. But you talked about the negativity that the REOs and the banks brought to it, and I know I represented 38 banks, and you're literally you and your team became a human punching bag, and you're seeing your assistants crying every day, and it was a rough period, and it's a draining on the culture, and again, this is something that we'll touch on a little bit later. I want to get ahead of ourselves, but I've been to your team meetings, and your team culture is so brilliant and amazing, and I think that's probably a lot of your success. That's absolutely a wise move, man. And but let's talk right now really quickly about, so you got licensed 16 years ago, and now you're running this mega team, and you're awesome software developer. You've created some amazing software that we'll talk about later, that for agents to get out there and utilize and grow their business and coaching. And but of course you didn't start here. So 16 years ago, you get in the business. So let's even rewind behind that. Like, what got you into the business? What were you doing before you got into real estate? And really, what journey led you into this industry?
Sure. I mean, I did a lot of different types of sales. Kind of always enjoyed reading about sales and different things like that. But you moved out here, got married almost about 20 years ago, and moved out here about 18 years ago, and just had to come out. Sales job I came out with the company got sold like right when I got here, and I didn't really like the new company, so I started working pretty much any job I could get. I just grabbed one, and I ended up working for a real estate attorney, and it sounded really good, trying to help out, people, actually essentially women that their husbands weren't paying child support, and we were going to go in and try and help get some assets back, get some money for them, and help out the kids, and it sounded all good until you realize that, it wasn't like the guy was just the bad guy in it and the woman was the saint. It was just a bad situation all the way across. And I really wanted to get into real estate sales. My wife's an accountant, and she was a controller at a mortgage company. And I just said, hey, I think I can sell. I'm going to go sell the highest expensive thing I can sell, which would either be yachts, airplanes, or houses. And I'm like, hey, not that many yachts sell, especially in Arizona. And so I'm like, hey, I want to go sell real estate. And she didn't have a great impression of real estate agents that would come into the mortgage company, and so she said, hey, what, I just really don't think you should do it. And she gave me essentially 90 days. She said, fine, you got 90 days, you go sell something, or if you don't do it, you got to go get a real job. And so I busted my butt and was working like crazy, and going to apartments in the middle of the night and putting flyers on doors and cars and walking neighborhoods, all night long, and cold calling like crazy back when you could, and just all kinds of crazy stuff. And I ended up selling a house and then selling another one. And that first year I sold 10 houses and made like $24,000. And everyone was telling me how great I did, and I was just embarrassed. It was just I was like, wow, you were just doing so amazing. And the thing that I realized right there was that there was people that were making, 50, 100 times, 200 times more money than what I was doing, and they couldn't have been working 50, 100 times more hours. And so I knew that they knew something I didn't know, and I had to go out and figure it out. And so I hired the best real estate coaches, went to every seminar I could do, read every book I could do, and quickly was able to learn some tips and tricks and different things that I could be able to collapse time. And then, within like a year or two, I was on the cover of Realtor Magazine, the 30 Under 30. Something a little bit about that, and then, just kind of really hustling and selling, over 100 houses a year, and kind of get going and start to build my team up. But, kind of one of those burn your bridges type moments. You got 90 days to get it together, and it was awesome. I'm glad she did that.
Yeah, no, that's killer, man. That's so many people get in this industry, I think, and think that it's going to be easy. They get in, I'm going to have all these family, friends, business is going to come to me, and they don't really get how hardcore it is to really get started and get things going. And so you're you're just grinding. You're 50, 60 hours a week. You're door knocking. You're doing all of that. You did 10 units your first year. Of course, now you've got this mega team of 30 plus, people. At what point, and you kind of alluded to this when you stated, well, there's guys out there making 10 times the amount of income, but they can't be working more hours. So at what point did you kind of decide, okay, in order to take it to the next level, I've got to learn to delegate. I've got to start growing my team. What point in your career did you get there? And how did that journey look like?
Yeah, it was really about 6 months in. My whole thing was, I really started out with really no value. It was just hustling. And at the time, I had this brilliant idea of, hey, I'm going to get in, and I couldn't believe the commissions. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. I could give away a third of my commissions and still make a ton of money, sell 100 houses a year, kind of just cruising right through. So I didn't know anything about real estate. There wasn't really trainers. I didn't really understand what was going on, and I didn't really have a broker that was willing to teach me anything. And I figured, man, so I just started out just, hey, I'm a commodity, and I'll just give away some money, and I just couldn't even give money away. I couldn't, I'm like, at the end of the day, the reality is I wouldn't have used me, and asking someone else to use me for their biggest investment was kind of a challenge. So like a lot of people, I learned from one of the trainers out there, from Tom Ferry, or from Mike Ferry, Craig Proctor. And one of the things that did is, there's some good information, and they're still out there doing it. But the thing that it really exposed me to was that there were people doing 100, 150, and at the time like 200 sides. That just boggled my mind, right? I mean, I just couldn't, and it just really it just like expanded my mind that we could never go back to the same place it was. And so really about 6 months in, even right before that, I knew that I had to do something different, and I understood the leverage and assistance. And so I hired really that first year, actually about a year and a half in, I got my first buyer agent, and then hired another buyer agent, even before I had an admin, which I would definitely bring an admin on first now. But just started, just trying anything I could, and figured I looked good at lead generation, and figured I could generate more leads than we could ruin.
Yeah. So let's talk, because today you've which very few people actually accomplish and do in this business, but really it should be the ultimate goal for every single real estate agent out there. When I hear real estate agents say, well, I don't want to start a team, I'm like, well, then you must just not care about growth and expansion, because at some point, if you care about growth and expansion, you're going to have to start a team. It's inevitable. So at what point, and today, you operate this mega team, and you're a true CEO. You're not going on appointments. You're operating from 30,000 feet up and doing that. So kind of walk us through that. So you hired your 2 buyers agents, then you hired an admin, and kind of how did it evolve to what it is today?
It's really one of those things where kind of step at a time, where, if you're a single agent right now, or even you've got one assistant, and you think, well, how can I go from none to 30 or anything else like that? Really my goal, even the first couple of years, was, I wanted to have, which I didn't go into it with the right mindset, but I said, I want to have a team of like 12 people, because I thought that's going to be able to cover all the bases. It's going to be able to do that. And to be honest, I didn't know of any teams in Arizona that had 12 people. That even like the biggest mega teams, I think maybe Mike Mendoza might have been one of the biggest at the time, or Bill Ryan, and some other different stuff like that. So that was just kind of, that was the biggest that I could even imagine that it could be. I'm like, what could you do with even more than that, right? What would you do? But everything's about scalability. And, so the first couple years was about, how can I knew that I could sell. I figured that out like in that second year. I figured out that there's best practices for anything. And once you learn, some of the best practices, real estate's really not hard. It's just about how determined are you to do it. And once you understand those things, then it's about doing those over and over. And you can have, real estate can be a really high-paying job. And that's really what I had until I started leveraging myself through other people. And then it became, well, how can I get them to collapse time as well? And what systems can we put in place so that they can be essentially guaranteed of success? Because I knew that I was good at sales, but I also knew that, I wasn't world class. It wasn't like I was the only person that could open a lockbox, or I was the only one that could operate the MLS. I was like, there's people selling houses, but how can I have these people, the agents, how can I have them do more? And it's about putting the systems in place to be able to do that. And kind of the evolution, was just one step at a time, hiring one buyer agent. And to be honest with you, and you know this, once you put your systems in place, it's actually almost easier to teach 6 or 8 people or 10 people at a time than it is one. Because it's a lot more gratifying. They'll ask different questions, and you're able to really clean up your answers and be able to do better, higher quality training on that. So once you start realizing whether you've got one buyer agent or 10, it's not that much more. It's not like it's 10 times more difficult. And throughout that process, one of the first things I did really, really early in my career was I read The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, and had a really big impact on me, like I'm sure like a lot of entrepreneurs. And I always followed a lot of the stuff he did. And then probably about 10 years ago, I got a chance to spend about 3 days with him, with just a small group of people. It was maybe 18 really top agents in the world, and we stayed with them for like 2-3 days. And one of the things that it still rings in my head today, he said there's no such thing as a successful small business. Now think about that for a second. And he kept repeating it, and at first I was like, I don't get what he's trying to say, but he said there's no such thing, and he said it with such conviction, there's no such thing as a successful small business. And, at first I'm like always looking for a fight. I'm always like, hey, let's argue about it, or, well, there's always got to be a different way. And you start going through it, and I don't remember if I even, started maybe trying to tell him to think differently about it, or somebody else did. I can't remember. But we had a kind of a discussion about it, and he goes, well, think about it. If it's a successful small business, what does it become? It becomes a bigger business, right? And so you really want to have your business become the best it can be, and whatever that might be for each one of us. Each one of us is different. You've got such an amazing skill set in the different businesses you're running, Joshua, that you just really want your businesses to become the best they can be. Someone else that maybe their leadership lid is a team of 4, and that's really the best they can be, but maybe someone else is a team doing 300 million with a team of 50 people. I don't know what it is, but our job should be to make our teams and be able to bring a level of service to our team and our clients at the highest level that we can possibly do.
Yeah, I love that, man. And so and just to kind of step back here, because I want to get into your systems, because I know you're a hardcore systems guy, and I've seen your back-end systems, and they're brilliant. But when it comes back to hiring, so at what point, at what threshold, so like let's say somebody's wanting to bring in a buyer's agent, like what is that threshold point? Because you don't want to just go out there and be like, okay, I'm going to hire 4 buyer's agents tomorrow, but maybe you don't have the business to be able to handle them. So what do you? And I know that you've probably made a lot of mistakes with this, and I know today you're absolutely amazing at hiring. You're probably one of the best guys I know in the industry at hiring and hiring right. So what kind of is that threshold? What would be your recommendation of hey, when you've got this much overflow, or you're this many days booked out, at this point, this is when you need to bring somebody on?
Well, you could look at numbers, whether that's somewhere between if you're doing less than 25 deals, not to be rude, you just need to hustle, right? There's just until you're doing 2 deals a month consistently, you don't need to scale. You just need to show you need to show proof of concept that you've got a value proposition, and especially later on, you're going to need to have that credibility to be able to sit down in a consulting interview with a buyer agent or someone else to be able to say, hey, you know what? I know the games that you're doing. I've been there. I felt the same things you felt, and I've done that. Once you're at about, I think, in my opinion, 25, deals, and one of the problems we've got in real estate is, let's say you've got 3 months of no sales and you get 1 month of 4 sales. In real estate, we have a tendency to go, well, how many deals a year do you do? And they go, oh, 48. So I do 50 deals a year. I mean, because they just take whatever their best month was and multiply it by 12, and all of a sudden that becomes what their volume is or something like that. We're just sometimes really bad at math in real estate. But it needs to be something that you can show that you're consistently able to do. And when you're able to do that, I'd say somewhere probably between 25 and 45, and the level might be different for different people. You need to be getting to really scale, you need to be able to get an admin, somebody that's very different from you. And some of that might be dependent on what your personality style is. I'm really a high D, and I don't really enjoy paperwork, so I need help in that area. And usually other people that are great at sales are going to be high I's. They're going to want to do that as well. So you're going to want to have those things. But the biggest thing besides just the numbers of it, you've got to make sure that that it is duplicatable and that it's scalable. I think one of the biggest problems that I see people do, and why so many teams start out and they're really hot and then they crash and burn, is that they try to scale before they have a proven concept. And so what you need to do is you need to make sure that your systems are right, and asking yourself questions like, okay, so does everybody use the same phone script when someone calls in? If a person calls in and they ask this question, are they going to get pretty much the same answer from almost everybody, or is it just a completely random event? If someone were to meet with the buyer, would the conversations be pretty much the same? Is it a scalable system, or is it a pretty much random thing that just has to do with is there a personality connection between the agent and the client? Same thing on the listing side. If someone, depending on who you have do that, is that same experience going to happen? Once you've got a scalable system, then it's just about attracting talent and growing that, and I think, depending on what numbers you really want to, be able to look at and how much marketing you do, a lot of the lead generation and scalability is probably going to be somewhere between maybe 6 and 10 listings. For every 6 or 10 listings, you're going to want to probably bring on, another buyer agent or someone that's going to be able to help you with that.
Now, on your team today, because again, you're at the point now where you're that true CEO. So you're kind of coaching, training your people, overseeing the systems, reviewing P&Ls, making high-level decisions. So today you've got people doing buyers, you got people doing listings. How does your team structure work? Do you have specified listing agents, specified buyer agents? Are your agents doing all of it and train on all of it? How does that look today?
Over the years I've done about all of that, and I think the most efficient way is still to have it broken up, having ideally probably a couple listing specialists and having people that specialize in buyers. Right now on my team, I've got it broken up based on skill level. So I've got probably about a third of my team that can do both buyers and sellers. Some of my team that have been with me for 6, 7, 8, 9 years, right? Been with me for a long time. And so that's kind of where I kind of opened it up and said, well, hey, you know what? I think you've earned the right to be able to do both buyers and sellers, and doing some different things like that. I think it's still more efficient to be able to have it broken up, having listings and buyers, but sometimes you have to make just decisions based on the quality of life that you want and the type of people that you want to stay in business with, where, a lot of times in real estate, if someone's been on a team for 6 months or, that might be a long time in the real estate industry. So I think I've made some choices that probably weren't as efficient, but just some of the choices I've made to stay in business with some people and open up some opportunities to be able to do. But I think it's better to break up those assignments a little bit better so people can specialize a little bit more And I'm trying to do that a little bit more in my business now by kind of some of the people that I'll hire now or going into the future will be more specialized and not really be able to kind of bounce over and do both.
Yeah, no, and I, and I've been through the kind of same journey too, man. I think at some point we've all experimented with every model, and couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, it's probably the most efficient way as a team leader and as a business to run it. But then it seems like it does kind of have an effect on the culture when they can't list a house with the same client that they worked with that they sold the house to, and it always kind of it always kind of creates that
Yeah.
internal thing that we always got to make decisions.
Everybody always wants what they can't have. Like, oh, hey, you're doing something to me, and you're not letting me do this, and you don't really want that. And it's one of those balancing acts, kind of like what you said. It's always trying to figure out that right setup.
Now, are you, one that thing that's been really popular over the last several years, last few years, mainly, is going to somewhat of an ISA model. Is that something that you've incorporated within your business, or are you still having your agents work all the leads that are coming in?
We did that several years ago, and it worked really, really well. We're actually bringing one on again here in about a week or so. We'll be bringing on and doing some different testing for some outbound type stuff. For all of our inbound, one of the things that we built within of our technology is a way to really be able to maximize it without an ISA. I still think ISA models for most people, if they don't have the technology, I think it's probably the wisest move to be able to specialize and do that. Part of it was, I really wanted to be able to test the model with our technology, and I think it worked out really well for us to be able to do. But it is also it's a really difficult position to fill, especially because you need a real estate license to be able to do it. And if you're doing it right and you're setting a lot of appointments, the ISA can get pretty frustrated if the agents aren't converting those as well as they should. And they go, you know what? I'd just rather just take these leads and I can go do it myself. And so almost every single ISA, I can't think of one I didn't, but probably the last like 10 ISAs I have, and even a lot of them are still with me, is they started out as ISAs, got really, really good at everything, and said, you know what? I could just do better selling. Let me just, please, can I just be an agent and sell? And yet, it's one of those hard things to train up and to replace, but it can be a massive impact on your business when done right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. 'Cause, I mean, they get to the point where they become brilliant and master what most agents suck at, but are the things that you must master to be uber successful. And yeah, like why would I be
Yeah.
doing this making 40 grand a year when I go out there and make 250? So
Yeah, and one of the things with that is because of repetition, right? Is because they're doing it more often than, an agent, doing a smaller percentage of that. And then, so I think it's mastery. It's about doing anything over and over and over, and you get really, really good at it really fast.
yeah, yeah. So and you've talked about systems a lot, and I know you're a hardcore systems guy. And to operate a team the size that you have, you've got and I don't know the exact number, but I know you're 30 plus agents, and that's not counting support staff. So in order to operate a team like that, you can't manage people. You got to manage the systems that manage the people and have brilliant systems in place. So let's kind of talk about some of the systems that you're running, some of the things that you do to hold everybody accountable, making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So how important are systems to you? What do systems mean to you? And what are some of the systems that you're running in your business?
Yeah, absolutely. Everything, if we're doing it multiple times, it has to have a system in place. So, kind of like exactly what you said, most of what we do all day long is trying to get, trying to rein everybody back into getting and following the system. So it comes down to training on the system, reiterating the system, tweaking the system, improving it, because, things can become obsolete pretty fast in real estate, but everything's about getting the systems and having the right checklist and having the right scripts and having the right paperwork simply to be able to do. And then how can you simplify everything so that it's not so overwhelming, so that the agent or team can really focus on the client and not have to focus as much on what is the system I'm doing, and then looking at every single piece of it and going, well, how can I automate this? Is there anything I can do to automate it? And so we're big into automation. My buyer presentation, listing presentation, they're all on video. So we've gone through that, and so We meet with a client, whether it's a listing or a buyer. Our agent goes through and goes through a very specific way of going through it, plays the video, and that what that does is that makes sure that we cover all the points I want to cover, and it puts the agent at ease knowing that all those points have been covered, and that all they need to do is be able to do essentially Q&A, answer what questions they've got, and be able to ask for a consensus and be able to get approval and move forward.
So with those videos, I think that's brilliant, man. I think that's a killer idea, because then you can have that brand new, maybe green agent fresh out of school. It alleviates that pressure and that stress from them of really having to do that consultation. So when you do that video, is that something that your agent pulls up on a laptop, presses the play button, and is in the consultation with them, or is that something that you email them beforehand?
No, absolutely. You want them. You'd have to be, side by side, belly to belly, going through that. It doesn't work, So you can send them out a pre-list video or anything else, and all those things are good to, predispose them to do business with you. But this is about, hardcore making sure that this happens. And part of this, just to kind of give you, there's thousands of examples. I'll just give you one from just the other day. So, like I said, we're here in Phoenix, and we've got Cox Cable is one of the big players out here, and it's kind of a love-hate relationship with them. But at our house, sometimes the cable would kind of get spotty sometimes, and we wanted to replace our router with it. And so I had my wife. I said, hey, have Cox come out, replace the router, pay them whatever they need to pay. I said, I don't. If you want to buy it, buy it. If not, just tell them we'll rent whatever garbage they need. And the technology changes so fast. In a year or two, we'll probably want to swap it out anyways. But just pay them $10 a month, whatever it is, and just get it done. Just be done with it. Guy comes out, and Cox trying to cut costs, right? And so this independent person, or I don't know what you call them, but they were outsourced this. This guy shows up, takes a look at it. Yeah, you got a junky router, whatever. And my wife's like, okay, well, can we just buy whatever you've got? And he goes, oh, you don't want to do that. Cox will just rip you off. What you want to do is here, just buy this, pulls it up on Amazon. I think it was like $50 or $60, where it was going to be, I don't know, $8 or $10 a month for Cox. And he's like, hey, just buy this. Shows up the next day, and Cox has no idea that this guy just came out, told us not to buy it from them, and is taking hundreds and hundreds of dollars of revenue away from them. Now, the point being, when you run your business, all of these different things integrate in with your agent, right? If they've just done their third listing appointment of the day, there's no way they're going to bring the same energy as they did on the first one. And if they walk in and the young son broke his leg yesterday, and he's got a hurt leg, and they walk in and the family's maybe having a hard time or something like that, they're just not going to close. They're not going to ask for money. They're not going to go through that. And it doesn't mean that you have to be cold or heartless. It just means that you've got to build a system to make sure that these things happen, and that you're asking for the business and you're going through those things. And so at the operator level, those choices are minimized so that you as a business can really be able to figure out what works and what doesn't work. Like at McDonald's, if you went and ordered and they didn't ask you, do you want a large drink with that? Do you want fries with that? Do you want anything? If it was just up to each individual cashier to decide what they wanted to do, what would that be like? And that's really how most of real estate operates. Is everyone's just a random event.
Yeah, no, it's like you just said, you got to make it where it's duplicatable every single time, and it's so ungodly critical. When you're creating those videos like that, because everybody today, and it's getting worse with smartphones and technology. I mean, everybody's acquiring hardcore ADD, and it seems like people can't even watch a 2-minute video anymore. When you're doing, like, for example, if I'm going to go on a listing presentation and let's say pull it up on my iPad and I do it live, I might be sitting there after the tour for another 35 minutes going through everything live. But that's kind of easier because you're there. You can kind of read their body language. So I'm assuming that the video format, you've got to be careful there, because you can't expect them to probably watch a 30, 40-minute video. So what kind of a time frame is it? Do you have any recommendations or any kind of maybe mistakes you made with that where you can keep them engaged?
Sure, yeah. I mean, our first version, a few years back was about 60 minutes with it. And surprisingly, that's where we had the highest signing percentage with it. And you just have to prep them ahead of time saying, hey, you know what, I know you're going to want to, not go through this, and you're going to do that, but you almost have to use a takeaway. Hey, you know what, most people spend more time planning their next vacation than they do dealing with their most important asset being their house. And so we would really go with the strategy of really trying to essentially kind of bludgeon them, like going through and here's the value proposition, that it becomes almost like they're just calling uncle. And hey, you know what? Do you really want to go through this with another agent? Do you really want to go spend another hour, 2 hours, or whatever that is? And we kind of almost wear them into submission to a certain extent with that. Over the years, we've changed it up a little bit. Now they're closer to 25 to 30 minutes. I think the optimal time, based on a lot of different types of studies, is about 24 minutes, and people can concentrate for about 6 to 12 minutes at a time. And if you've got some small little breaks in there, going through, asking a few different questions, you can really kind of go through that. And then what we try to do is inside the videos is really about every 4 seconds you have to have some type of change of pace to be able to give them something different to focus on. But there's just a lot of things you pick up over the years to really be able to do it. And you know what? When you understand that there is no perfect way to do it, there's best practices and there's ways that you can try to improve and get better. But there is no perfect thing, right? I mean, you're awesome at what you do, but the same thing is if you had 5 listing appointments in one day, your energy would be at a different level. Well, maybe not yours because you're almost superhuman, but most normal people would be pretty different on the 5th one versus the one on the first one. It would be just a completely different experience.
Yeah. Now, and I like you mentioned there, it gives it where your agents are really able to just go into Q&A and focus on their needs. They're not really have to focus on the sale because you're already doing that for them, and then they're able to really focus on how do I serve and support you as my client.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's kind of go into some of the other systems that you have, because I think that's critical. I think just like you mentioned when you first started talking about systems, if it's anything that you're doing more than once, it needs to have a system. And something you talked about earlier in the interview was system for how you're answering the phone, to everything. So and you've got a lot of crazy systems, and I know that part of that, and that's why I believe that's why you created your software, because you're like, hey, I'm sick and tired of operating out of 8 systems like every other real estate agent is forced to do. You created one system, and it was something that you created just for yourself, but had such success for what you were able to offer to other agents. But before we jump into that, let's talk a little bit about how did you get started with it? So maybe I'm an agent right now that's doing 40 deals a year. I know that I'm growing. I know that in the next 6 months, maybe I've got to start hiring somebody. How do you start? Because it sounds like you're like, holy crap, I don't know where to start. I know I need systems, but it's overwhelming. And I know for me, like people are like, oh, you got to have these matrix. I'm like, what the hell's a matrix, dude? Like the only matrix I heard of is the movie, right? Like I'm like, I don't know what that crap is. It was overwhelming.
Yeah.
How would you recommend they break it down, and where would you recommend they start?
Not to go back to it, but I would say people have lived before us. People have gone ahead of us and have already taken the arrows in their back and stuff like that. Is first you got to figure out, learn from the people that are doing what you want to do. So if you're at 40 and you're cranking, and let's say you want to get to 200 to 300, whatever, find people that are doing 200 to 300 and then model a lot of their behaviors, and you'll get most of the time the same result. But there's there's thousands of ways to lose money in real estate, and there's very few ways to make it. That there's everybody will sell you something different, and I kind of fall into that because kind of like what you said, we sell our stuff with it, but there's so many sources out there that you can spend money on, and no one knows if they work or if they don't work. So you do have to find something to scale and to be able to do that. You've got to be able to capture how are you communicating with your database. Are you talking to your past clients, your current clients, and do you have something that's going to capture? So let's say you get a lead right now. What does it do? What does it go into? And we found that we were driving a ton of leads, to our 800 lines and all kinds of different stuff with it. And we had some of the systems out there. We had Tiger, Boomtown, a couple other ones, and we had like 5 systems that were going on at once. And even with all of those different things, with essentially blood oaths of everybody, you promise you'll follow this and you'll do this, we were losing about 82% of all the leads that within about 2 or 3 days were not even in our system, even being followed up on. Which, I mean, that's just, it's just a big hole in the bottom of the boat. You're just going to go out of business with it. So the first thing you've got to do is make sure you capture every single lead that's coming in. What are you doing with it? How are you dispositioning it so you know how to work it in a couple days, because some of the business is going to be right now business, but a lot of it's going to be in 1 to 4 months, and then 4 to 12 months, and if you only work now business, you're just giving up on so much future business with it. So I'd say the biggest thing is you got to make sure you're capturing it so that you can follow up with it. And even if you even if you didn't generate more leads, if you just did a better job of capturing it, understanding where you're at, and processing the lead in the same way, you can probably double whatever, if you've got 2, 3 people on your team, you could easily double it if you just do a better job with that without generating any more leads. And everybody would be thrilled because you wouldn't need as many fresh new leads coming in. You'll just do a better job of converting them.
Yeah, it seems that very rarely leads are the problem. A lot of people like to think leads are the problem, but it's our inability to follow up correctly, take enough frequency, and
Yeah.
convert to appointments that's the problem. So let's dive into that. And I know that this is why you created Positioning for Profits in the software that you operate, because it's just like you just talked about. Man, we were operating out of 3 or 4 systems or 5 systems, and it's so difficult to, as team leaders, to get your agents to operate out of one, let alone
Yeah.
bouncing out of 3 or 4. And there's really no one system or at that time that did it all. And that's why you created this awesome system. So let's kind of talk about how that's structured, how they come in, how frequently they're getting followed up with. Because I think that's just like you talked about. I think that's one of the biggest issues. One of the stats out there from Zillow right now is that your average agent follows up with a lead in 40 minutes and only follows up twice. Like, it's not enough frequency to do anything. So, kind of talk
Right.
about that. Where do they go? How quickly are you guys following up? And then how frequently, for how long because you guys have crazy high conversion rates. So let's kind of dive into that.
Sure. For us, the biggest thing is the first 5 minutes the call comes in. So, we're trying to route the call, make sure that the agent is ready, prepared in front of the computer, ready to be able to convert it. We've built special things in the back so that, I'd go back and listen to calls, and it might take 2 minutes. Someone's like, hey, I'm in front of 123 Main Street, and it might take 2 minutes to pull up a house, to even give them information on the house. And the person's already ticked off at that point. And you just go to any office, and it's pretty much the same thing. So we build in systems to be able to quickly, within about 10 seconds, have that house up. You don't have to have the MLS up. You don't have to have that. You've got the script right in front of you. You're able to go through, bring value, and then just be able to kind of carry through that. And within our system, if you've got, after 5 minutes, if the agent hasn't worked it, it rotates to the next one. And I'll go to the next person on that's ready, that's logged in and prepared and saying, hey, I'm ready to work this lead. And so we're really try to be dialed in as best we can on that. And then if none of those agents work it fast enough, if let's say one's on the phone, it rotates through to the next one. Then it goes to our unassigned bucket, and then any agent here that's ready and working and wanting to jump on it can go and try to convert it. So those first 5 to 15 minutes, we want to just really dive all over it. We want to, that first day, we want to do at least 3 attempts, with the email, a call, video email, a text, whatever that might be. So for the first 2 to 3 days, at least 3 attempts, and then 1 to 2 a day until we're like at 10 attempts before we've done everything to try to disposition it.
When you're doing that video email, is that something that what are you sending at that point? Like, give me like a quick sample of a script that you're shooting these guys.
The best one is unscripted. Really, is just, hey, you know what? We use BombBomb, and I think it's a great platform. We've got built in, right inside of our system, because we used to have it, and we get agents a login, and they just wouldn't log in, right? And so that's kind of like everything we've done is just solving our own problem. So it's one button inside of our technology. We hit button, and it starts recording, and you just go, hey, I just saw, if it's a buyer lead, hey, just saw you jumped on our site, and we're looking at 4-bedroom homes over in Mesa, and just wanted to get you some more information about that home and tell you what an amazing deal it is. Not only do we know about this home, we know of 2 or 3 others that are pretty similar to it as well. They're either going to be coming on the market or maybe a mile or 2 away or something like that. But they're motivated by greed, by curiosity, by knowing that, and they just want a connection. They just want to have, you just have to stand out. And our industry hasn't done a great job of doing that. Everybody is fighting to be the same, and so anything you can do to be different, whether that's texting, whether that's doing a video email, or whatever, you're really going to stand out. So it almost initially doesn't matter what you do or say, as long as you're trying sincerely to help them initially to be able to do that, and then just being real and talking to them about it. Hey, tell me about your situation. How can I help? And obviously scripts help tremendously to be able to do that. But just being fast, many times fast is better than being good later.
Yeah. So you're on these guys, right? So 3 attempts, 15 minutes, you're on them. And I don't know if it still holds true today, but several years ago, I was doing a Brian Tracy Sells uh, university training, and he talked about it's communication happens after the 15th contact and on average in sales. So, so a lot of those people, maybe you're not hitting initially, but then after that happens. So let's say you've hit them 3 times in the first 15 minutes. Kind of what's the follow-up policy there? Is it every day for so many days, and then they go on to several, a couple days a week for a period of time? What does it look like for those, maybe that person that's just starting out, that's 6 to 12 months out?
Sure, and we put them on a buyer drip campaign, and we're looking to see, have they opened it up, are they looking at houses, are they doing those things, and every day we'll look at follow up. Okay, well, let's contact the people that have opened up and looked at the houses and gone through that, and as much as we go through this, we've got light years of stuff we can still improve on. Are still the numbers of attempts, we still drive too many leads for what we're to be able to have our agents really be able to follow up. So, I mean, they get overwhelmed just like everybody else, and we could do a lot better job with that as well. But our policy is essentially 3 attempts a day for the first 3 days, and then at least a contact for that first week, and then hopefully we've got at least made some contact at that point, because that's going to be 12, 13 contact or attempts during that period of time, and then we'll usually maybe once a week, once every other week. To be able to do that, and then usually at about 3 weeks we'll dive back in a little bit harder to kind of, sometimes they'll kind of go away and then they'll kind of come back up for air, and sellers, they'll be at different places in that as well, depending on where really the lead came from. But it's about, you mentioned that sometimes it might be like the 15th attempt, and someone might be leaving a voicemail and they might go, wow, you know what, this isn't effective, no one's even doing this. If they're listening to that voicemail, you're making an impact. They might not be ready to talk to you, but if you leave several voicemails over time, they're becoming more familiar with you. They're becoming more ready, and they're seeing, your drip email, your video email, your text. They're seeing all these different things, and especially since 35, 40%, maybe even a little bit higher right now of buyers have a home to sell, they really want someone that's pretty aggressive, and so they want to see someone that's going after their business. How would you treat a buyer if they were, looking to, they inquired on my house? And so it's really important to not be passive and not just make a single attempt, but to really be aggressive at it.
Yep, that relentless follow-up, and that's why I love systems like the one that you've created, because really with the automation and some of the mass features that you can send out to everybody, it really doesn't matter if they reach out on the 2087th contact, it's really no more work for your agents because of the automation that you built into the system, where it's just it kind of is they're going to be in there until they either buy, die, or sue you for harassment.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So one thing I want to talk about is your culture, right? So I've been to your team meetings. A couple of years ago, you were kind enough to let me come in and observe and be there, and a lot of energy. You guys rolling. There was some great music, great videos. I think that was the day where you showed the 212 video, and that was the first time that I've heard about that 212, where the 1 degree difference creates steam and all of that, and so you could just, and I was only there for the hour, 2 hours that the meeting held, but just from walking in, I mean, you can absolutely feel the amazing energy and culture, and all your team getting involved. And that's something that doesn't exist in this industry, dude, right? And I don't know if it's just because we're all independent contractors. Everybody thinks like, okay, you got to be on your own. But most real estate offices or teams, it's kind of like a dead zone. And your office is totally the difference. Which and this is just off of observation, but I've got to imagine that that's a big part of your success is the amazing culture that you have. So, what are some of the things that you guys do, maybe to build that culture? Because it doesn't matter if it's a real estate team or maybe if you're listening to this and you own, I don't know, a health club or a restaurant or whatever. It's all the same stuff to develop those cultures. And what are some things that you do to develop an amazing culture in your business and keep that energy so high? And
this industry can be really hard, right? Because I think a lot of people, they get into it, just to say it bluntly, really just don't they're not prepared to be in sales. They get in because they've walked through model homes and they saw pretty pictures on the wall, and they bought a house one time and saw how much money the agent walked away with, and they thought, man, I could do that too. They don't really grasp the idea that most of the people getting in it don't have any sales experience. And some do, but so I've been in a lot of different environments and different things like that, and I realized that people have to have a great environment, but that at the same point, if agents don't sell houses, they're still going to leave. You could be your best friend, and they could love the culture, but if they don't sell, they're going to leave. And so it's kind of that balance between kicking butt and also still trying to have a lot of fun and being able to do that. My natural tendency is just to kick butt and just to kind of put my head down and not really worry about all the fun times and stuff like that. And I really enjoy doing hard stuff, and I enjoy just grinding. Most people, they want a lot more fun, and so I try to, really have people almost force me to, we try and put systems in place to have fun. We'll roll dice for, deals, and if they sold a house, they'll roll dice and they'll get money for it, or we'll play games, and I got to remember to bring in positive, uplifting videos or do different things and kind of balance it out so that I don't, because my tendency is just to see the things that are wrong, see the problem, see that, hey, you know what, we needed to do a better job following up on these 12 leads right here, but that doesn't always motivate everybody in that same way. So I'd say learn from everybody that's out there, take little bits and pieces and make it your own. I wouldn't say copy anybody, but if there's things that really resonate with you, pick it up and make it your own. Like one of my friends, Chad Goldwasser, down in Austin, Texas, I visited his office, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, 9 years ago, something like that. And, he went through and just really powerfully just went through his affirmations, and it just rocked my world. I'd been to Tony Robbins and walked on fire with him, and I loved the affirmations and stuff like that, but I'd never really seen it like in a business office setting. And I was like, you know what, there are really no rules here. We can just do whatever we want to do. And so I just said, hey, what are my affirmations? What are things I believe? What is our mission statement? And so we go through, we do our affirmations, we do our mission statement, we talk about things that are positive in people's lives. What are those things? And really kind of get them to have some buy-in. And to be honest, it freaks some people out because some people are like, man, I didn't sign up for that. And so I just try and really go through that a lot at the beginning is, hey, this is how we are, and it might not be right for you. And some people are like, hey, this just seems a little too rah-rah, a little too this or that. And I'm totally cool with that. I find your sleepy little place somewhere that you can nap at or whatever. We want to have a good time and kick butt and sell houses.
Yeah, no, dig it, man. Yeah, it's definitely not for everybody, but you don't want everybody, right? Yeah, I experienced that the other day too. It was the first time I've actually had, well, at least had somebody admit it to me. But I followed up with a guy that decided not to join our organization. He's like, dude, it felt like a cult. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
He's like, well, you're making us announce personal goals, and like we do karate board breaking ceremonies every 90 days for personal goals, and and it just it freaked him the hell out, which is fine. I mean, really that's the goal, right? Is to scare the majority away, because I don't want the majority. So,
yep, awesome.
Yeah, love it, man. So let's talk about marketing, dude, because I know you're a lead gen machine, man. You're all over the radio. You do a lot of pay-per-click advertising, a lot of that. I mean, you got a huge radio presence. I mean, you're on there with Sean Hannity. What's the Shark Tank gal now? I mean, you're out there crushing with that.
Barbara Corcoran and Glenn Beck and good stuff.
You're rolling with all these huge hitters and doing out there. So let's kind of talk about that. So I know you do a lot of radio and again internet advertising. So obviously that's working. So let's talk about what's working, and then within those, what are some messages? I know you have some big, unique marketing propositions that you do, selling propositions that you do. So let's talk about, again, what's working and how you're crushing it there.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. Phoenix is, pretty, it's a huge market. I mean, depending on what you're looking at, number 5, number 6 city or metro area in the country. So the marketing costs, it's not something you can play with, because you've got to get a lot of repetition for people to really be able to understand it. We've been doing radio and TV for about 9 years, 10 years, probably about 9 years or so, and it's a pretty big commitment. It might be anywhere between 10 and 30 grand a month going into that. So it's got to be something you can't really make a mistake with, because I just can't tell. I mean, you've seen over the years, all these people dive into TV and they're all hot and heavy with it, and 3 months later they're out of business because it just burns through, and it takes a long time to really be able to do that. One of the big players, a friend of ours, Russell Shaw here in the market, he's been the model for people across the country for years, and he's gone in and he used to do radio himself, and he announces his own spots, and he's kind of got a lot of the market, from a mind share standpoint, a lot of those things. So one of the ways that we kind of go with just a little different route. First of all, I hate my voice anyways, and so I don't really want to necessarily do my own spots, but just kind of take advantage and other people, Sean Hannity, Glenn Beck, Barbara Corcoran on ABC Shark Tank, they're already spending millions of dollars to market themselves, and people already know, like, and trust them. So if there's a way that I can, make friends with them, get business deals with them to where they'll endorse me, and I can take a little bit of that so that the people that know, like, and trust them, some of that pixie dust will brush off onto me and know, like, and trust me, then I'm all for it. So from the celebrity branding standpoint, it's been a good thing for us. It doesn't happen initially. You got to have a pretty big checkbook to really be able to stay it, and be able to go at it at a loss for a long time. But it does, it turns off some people. Some people are like, man, I hope you rot in hell because this person endorsed you, and it's just kind of bizarre. Some of the people that will come out of the woodwork. Some people just love you to death. You couldn't screw it up. There's nothing you could do that you're getting their business. And other people, it doesn't matter what you do, you'll just never get it. So it's kind of a double-edged sword in some cases, but it's worked for us.
Now, when it comes to the celebrity endorsement, I dabbled in some radio, and I was one of those guys that failed miserably at it. And, it was $100,000 experiment.
Exactly.
But I dived in, and I just, my ego got in the way, and I'm like, all right, well, Russell Shaw and Curtis Johnson own this space, but I'm Joshua Smith. I'll jump in and compete with them, and it was a massive learning experience. Let's just call it that. So, but what would you? Because I recorded all my own ads. Like, I just did all my own, and just being upfront and honest, I couldn't get in with the Sean Hannity because they're exclusive areas, and you had them. So,
sure.
Would you recommend somebody that's wanting to dive into that space? Because there's a lot of I have a lot of friends. Like a gentleman, a great friend of mine that was just on the show, Ryan Dallas, and a great friend of mine,
great guy.
Another great friend of mine in Virginia Beach, Chantel Ray, and we're talking about the cost per their ads. Like, for example, a 60-second ad for them might only be $80, where here it's $380. So would you recommend, though, if somebody's getting into this, to have success maybe quicker or whatever, would they be better off doing less frequency with a celebrity endorsement and spending the extra money to have that with less frequency, or going out there and recording their own stuff and maybe doing more frequency and not doing the endorsement?
It's a great question. I would say it's market to market. That obviously the costs are. It's one of the good and the bad things about being in a big market is everyone goes, man, hey, I'm just crushing it here in my little town of 100,000 people, and you're like, wow, with millions of people, you should be doing 10 times what I'm doing or whatever. Where they don't understand the type of competition you've got, and also the cost of marketing are so ridiculous. So I would probably err, if I was in a smaller market, I think you could get enough play and repetition that you could just dominate any market with enough repetition. I mean, you see that in the during the elections, right? I mean, we can't get away from these people. The repetitions and the radio and the TV. And when you own someone's mind share, it doesn't, you just own it. But it's in a big market, it's pretty difficult to be able to do, especially if there's big players that are already doing it. So I would say in a smaller market, you could get away, with a frequency. If you can, really dial in the frequency, it might not be as big a deal on the celebrity side. But I think, for me personally, I think it's definitely helped us here. It's definitely not the only reason it's helped us, but I think more than anything, it just gives a little bit more confidence that, hey, you know what, we've got these different, value propositions, and that it gives us a little bit more credibility when you're, face to face with somebody. But I would probably say find something that's a good match for you, even if it's a smaller niche. Maybe you really connect with one of the DJs on some station, or maybe there's a sports star in your area that's a good match, that really has maybe the same values, and you go after a smaller niche market. It doesn't have to be a mass, ABC Shark Tank or something like that. It can be a smaller thing.
So when you're doing this stuff, because I mean, dude, you're everywhere, right? So I mean, one in your 16 career, and I don't know what the number is, but I'm just gonna throw a guesstimate out there of probably 5,000 plus homes, let's say, that you've sold. So you've got this massive, massive past client database. Anytime you might have 100 signs out there because you guys sell a lot of homes, you got a lot of listings out there, your radio, your TV, you're all over the internet. How are you able to track what's working? You have different numbers, different websites for the radio that you drive them so you can separate it. I mean, how are you able to track to really see what's working and what's not working?
Yeah, I think over the years we've gotten better at it. But it's also one of those things, especially today. I was just kind of going through this a little bit earlier today, trying to break out, sources and stuff like that. And we track each source and really try and get an ROI on it. But the thing is, a lot of times on radio or TV, they might see it, they might see your website, they might see the phone number, and then what 90% of the people do is they still just go and they Google you. They just put your name and, Joshua Smith Real Estate. And whatever comes up, that's the first site they go to, or whatever it is, and then they call whatever numbers on that. And so you don't necessarily know they came from TV or radio or something like that. So it is trickier in our day and age. And the same thing is if you're trying to get referrals from friends or family or things like that, is that you've got to make sure that, when you're talking to people, that you're tracking, hey, what was the biggest thing that impacted why you called, or, is there someone I can thank for having, sending you over? So I think it's trickier and trickier. There's better technology out there. There's Google Analytics. You can kind of go both directions. You can plug all your stuff back into there, and you can get such amazing insight on your, internet exposure and all kinds of things. But people don't work in the same way that they used to. It's not as easy as, okay, well, hey, they saw this Facebook post and they clicked on a button and you could see exactly where it came from. Just pretty much direct response marketing 101. It's not as easy as that anymore because people don't take that one step directly in. They'll search you out on 3-4 different mediums that they like. They might look at Facebook. They might look at Google. They might look at these different things. And so you've got to have a complete system around you to give them the confidence. And if they go to one thing and you look at the rock star and then they go and you don't exist on Facebook or you don't exist here or there, it might freak them out.
Yep. Yeah, and expect, I mean, I guess the ultimate goal is when you ask people is, oh, we just see your stuff everywhere. So, which like you said, sometimes it's a challenge thinking, because guys like you and I that are number freaks, it's like, well, I want to know, I don't want to know that it's just working. I want to know exactly, what my ROI is exactly here. And but when I go in the East Valley, I can't go anywhere without seeing your stuff. I mean, you've been like that octopus, right? Like you've just kind of dominated the obscurity issue, and what it is, it's just you just see.
But it's kind of funny though. So probably at least once a month, someone will say, what was it? Well, it was your billboards. I've never run a billboard ever, I've never, but they're positive it was a billboard. So you do have to kind of layer the marketing pieces. In the smaller your market, you could just dominate every area, and you could just find a smaller niche, and they just think you are everywhere.
Yeah, dig it, man. So I know that you do some different guarantees. So with your marketing, so how important are guarantees to you, and what are some examples of guarantees that you've just used that really crush it?
We used a guaranteed sale for probably 12, 13 years or something like that. Your home sold in 27 days, or I'll step in and buy it myself, or pay 0% commission. It's good. It has you have some conversations with it. The guaranteed sale, but to be honest, it's not nearly as strong as it was maybe 10 years ago, because so many people have come in, and a lot of people run guaranteed sales, and and some of them are pretty weak, and and they just it's the kind of the credibility factor. A lot of people go, oh, you wouldn't really buy my house, or what's the catch, or what's the this, or so people are a lot more skeptical today than they've ever been. And so I think, in my opinion, I think testimonials are the thing from here going forward that, the guarantees are good. They used to be a big reason the phone would ring. I think the future is about testimonials, and can you get testimonials? Can you get reviews? Can you get these different things? I think those are going to be the big deals going forward.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's like if I'm buying a product, dude, I don't even care if I'm not, even if it's something I'm not buying on Amazon. First place I go is Amazon. I'm gonna research it,
Yeah.
and I don't want to see like 3 5-star reviews. I want to see like 800. You know what I mean? So, and if we look
You're a tough nut to crack, man.
at, so when we look at like NAR stats say 72% of sellers are only interviewing one agent. It's not because they're doing less homework. It's just like you're talking about. The internet exists. They're going out there. They're doing their homework. They're researching you. They're stalking you on whether it's social media, whether it's YouTube, whether it's whatever, seeing your reviews. And then that meeting is, I guess, really just to discuss price and make sure that you're as presentable as you appear to be online.
Yeah, they're looking for congruency, and that's where you've got to shape everything. That maybe if let's say if you had some of your let's say a client stumbled upon one of your videos and they're like, man, he's all fired up, and man, he's just he's going to be a hustler, and then they met with you and you're really boring and you're slow and you just don't come off like that, or they meet with one of your agents and they do that. There's going to be a disconnect, and there's not going to be congruency with it, and they're going to lose confidence. And so you got to be real, who you are, whoever you are, just go with it and just have a congruent message.
Yeah, so let's talk about really quickly, I talked about this in the intro. I know that your commissions, and we don't have to get into absolute specifics because I know there might be some proprietary stuff here to your teammates and your coaching clients with this, but you've really designed a system because you offer so much value where you're able to earn more and make more, because people will sit there and hear, okay, well, Curtis does 70 million a year. Well, I may be doing 70 million, but I may be doing it at a discounted fee and only make half the commissions that you make. Like everybody talks about gross volume, but they're not really talking about, okay, what did you actually make? And you've designed just this, awesome, where you deliver so much value, and you're able to get paid more because you offer more value and you deliver better service to your clients. So, kind of some what are the things that you guys do there that you're able to do that? Because everybody's going in the opposite direction, dude. You and I see it all the time.
Sure.
It's I still get listing calls. Hey, will you list my house for 4%? Well, no, I got to get 3% when I take 1%. I can't cover my costs. No, I'm not gonna. I can't do it. Sorry.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
And you're the 100% opposite direction everybody else is taking.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's on purpose, and there's, we're not perfect by any means, but man, we fight hard. And I think that, most of this industry is really, they try to go, okay, well, let me see what the person across the street, what are they doing in their market? Let me just copy them. Well, what they don't realize is most of the people are going out of business because they just don't, you're copying a broken system. I believe that, the industry set up from NAR to the local associations to the state, the Arizona Department of Real Estate, everybody is designed to have you sell a few houses, pay your dues, and just stay just enough to stay in business. But they don't really want you to be a high producer. Everything's set up for you to not be a high producer. And so, we look at and say, okay, what is everybody else doing? Well, everybody else is going out to their house. So, let's have all of our appointments in the office. Let's do this. And let's say if everybody decide that everyone's going to meet with everybody in the office, then I said, man, we'll buy a Winnebago, we'll buy a mobile home or a motor home, and we'll just drive to their house then with that and do it there. We just want to do something that's pretty different, that they can have a different experience with. And then it's just about, okay, if I was a brand new attorney and you were one of the best attorneys in the country, and you were 98% of your clients were getting off, and they were winning their cases and stuff like that, wouldn't it be ridiculous for us to charge the same amount? Because we get different results. And so that's really the premise of it is, well, there is no set fee for anything. And so It's actually against the Sherman antitrust laws to be able to have a set fee, across the board in this industry. But so many people just want to do that. So, we just went through and a lot of it came with when our market just, crashed and we were looking at it and we had 200 and something listings and, 10% of the market was selling. And I was just going broke going, this is crazy. We can't keep everybody happy. Sellers wouldn't lower their price fast enough to be able to stay in tune with the market as much as we wanted to tell them. And so many of the houses weren't selling, and I was like, you know what? I just don't want any more listings. I just don't want them. I'm like, I don't. People are like, hey, will you come list? No, we just don't even want it. Don't even, And then it was okay. Well, you know what? If you come into our office, we'll do it, but you got to pay us. For us to even take your business, you got to pay us. And then it became, well, we're going to charge twice as much as everybody else, and we're going to go through, but we have to be able to do that in order to be able to put the manpower to make it work. And really just designing the systems going, I guess from a thought process of, okay, let's say you only got to work with five clients all year, and you had to make, let's say you had to make $100,000, but you could only work with 5 clients all year, and the house was a $200,000 house, right? So you couldn't go after like the luxury homes, but you had to do that. What would you do if you had to do it and you had to make $20,000 off each one? What would you do? Well, would you do the same things you're doing right now? No, you probably wouldn't. Like, let's say if it was a buyer, you'd probably show up in a limo. You'd have, probably some beautiful woman walking them around, or if it's a guy, some model of a guy walking them around. Would you have black and white, touring sheets, or would you have color? Well, you'd have, color. Would you preview the houses first? Yeah, you'd preview the houses first because you would do everything possible to just make an amazing experience for them. And that's really kind of the premise that we came from is, okay, well, instead of how low can we make our fee to still be competitive, we kind of just try to go the opposite and say, well, what type of experience could we do? And then, how much is that going to cost? And then really just kind of trying to go the opposite direction. And I think anybody can do it, but it seems like there's a race to the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah, and people are willing to pay the difference for that service. And I mean, ultimately what's going to happen, and a lot of homeowners unfortunately don't think this way, but it's the level of service, the amount of stuff that you do, at the end of the day, it's going to put more money in their pocket, but they get so stuck on that fee. But again, like we talked about just with your agents, you're not trying to attract everybody. You're just trying to attract your ideal avatar that you choose to work with.
Yeah. And not everybody decides everything on price. Everyone, all the agents think, oh, everyone just decides on price. And you look at them, and they're wearing, $150 pair of shoes. They got a $300 watch. They're wearing, $250 earrings. Well, you're telling me you couldn't have had any cheaper shoes? I mean, you could have worn anything. You're driving a $80,000 car or whatever. You could drive a $10,000 car. You could ride a bike. So there's choices for everybody, and everybody will pay a premium for something, right? If you're a golfer, maybe you pay a premium for that. If you're a chef, maybe you'll pay a premium for knives or whatever it is. Everybody will pay a premium for something. You just have to find the right hot button. And if it's someone's most expensive possession, if it's their home, and you can, show that you can really make an impact on it, you got a fighting chance.
Well, and I think most objections, or at least in my experience, most objections are just a lack of education. And I really think it, and then again, this is just an observation, assumption, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that, and I'm guessing you probably don't get a lot of pushback because you've done such a brilliant job at selling the value in the presentation, in the consultation. There's probably no pushback because you've shown the value. They see the value, and at that point, they're like, yeah, we're in.
Yeah, you've got 10 to 15% of the population that no matter what you do, they're going to want to buy the highest level. They're going to want to buy the VIP seats. They're going to, hey, there's the general admission. I want the VIP. What's the backstage? And then you got 10 to 15%. It doesn't matter what you do. I want the cheapest. I want the, I want to stand on the house across the street to watch the concert because I don't even want to pay to get in, right? I want the cheapest person out there. You're not going to get those. And so many people base everything off of, that 10 to 15% bottom feeders that they just always want the cheapest. And you're not, and if you want to try to be everything to everybody, you're going to be nothing to everybody, right? You're going to be non-existent. And then it's those middle, 60, 70% that you can really make a, based on, what the connection is, what the value proposition, how you do, you can really, have an impact on those people. Yeah, we get pushback. And some people do it because they feel they have to negotiate. A lot of it's because they don't respect our industry, and that's okay. And we just want to be able to try to present our value and say this is what we do. If it's a match, let's do it. Let's get it sold. If it's not, that's fine too.
Now, do you think being because really in your space, I mean, you kind of yeah, you have celebrity endorsements, but through all that, you kind of become a celebrity in your own space. So do you feel that, being there and being endorsed and hanging out with Sean and having him push him, Barbara and all of that? Because like, dude, I see somebody on TV or I see somebody on the radio. I mean, ultimately, our mind we just assume because we know it's expensive, so we just assume they're very successful.
Hmm.
So do you feel that might have an impact on allowing you to get that higher
Oh,
fee?
sure. Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. And part of why we do the video presentations, or let's say you do a PowerPoint or anything, what we don't realize is that so much of our life is looking at a screen and TV and all kinds of different stuff, even a podcast or whatever, is that we give celebrity endorsement, celebrity status to almost everybody. And even if, let's say, you've got a PowerPoint and you take your listing presentation or your buyer presentation, whatever, and you just type it up and you put it on a screen, something happens that people look at it and they just see your picture and they're like, man, this person's important. So people believe what is in print, even if it's the internet and everything's a lie or whatever. They just believe it. And so there's a lot of things that you can take advantage of, and you could tie yourself to. You could just tie. Something just happens in the news or whatever. You can tie yourself to all kinds of celebrity stuff if that's really what you wanted. Um, so absolutely all of that stuff has to do with we couldn't charge the same amount if we didn't have the endorsements and different things like that. We could still do a good job, but it makes it much easier.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, kind of taking a different direction. I want to kind of talk to you about goal setting because one thing that you kind of talked about early in the interview was you started working with coaches and going to a lot of seminars, and it just changed your think. I don't know if that's really a word or the right way to say that, but change your mindset, right? It expanded the way that you thought about this business and life. And yet, I've never met a successful, uber successful person, like yourself that isn't a hardcore goal setter. So, what are some of the things that you do to set goals? Personally, what are some of the things that you do with your team to set goals?
Yeah, one of the books that really, I love goal setting books and going through, Brian Tracy, like you mentioned, is, he's fantastic. I've followed his stuff for a long time. Ultimate Sales Machine, Chet Holmes, years ago, it's just a fantastic book, but he kind of talked a lot about goal setting, and we created, or actually I created like a top six form of just kind of getting, if you only did six things in the day, what would those six things be? What time are you going to start? What time are you going to stop? And how's that commitment going to be? How committed are you to it? Is it a commitment or is it a goal? Is it a wish or a promise? And doing those top six things, because so many times, and if I don't, put pen to paper the night before or that morning and going through it, you're just not going to get as much stuff done. But we just grind through, what we call our top six, and just say, if I get these top six things done, am I going to make money doing this? And making sure that some of those things are either prospecting and lead generation, and they're not picking up your laundry and doing things like that. It's not just the daily planner. It's that, hey, these are activities that have to happen to make money.
Yeah, I read at one point, this about a year ago, about an article from Richard Branson. He's like, I've set goals, I set visions, but I never focus on them. All I've ever focused on is winning the day, being the best be at the day. Okay, what activities must I accomplish today to win the day and be at my best self? And that's always ever focused on is really just crushing and winning that day.
That's great.
So okay, dude. So let's that kind of takes me into my next question. Your daily routine. So you have six things every single day. Like what is your daily routine? How do you set yourself up for success? You kind of talked about journaling and planning and all of that. What's some daily routine things that you do that you feel really attribute to putting you in that right state to accomplish all the stuff you accomplish?
Sure. Well, not to give you too big of a head, right? But you really inspired me. I know we've met a lot and stuff like that. But about 6 months ago, I was just probably the worst, the fattest I'd ever been, and I just, I've had like three back surgeries and kind of had every excuse kind of be a wuss and stuff like that. And I was like, man, I just can't be the leader I need to be being so fat and disgusting. So, I get up about 6 o'clock, get on the treadmill, and I've got it set up. I've got actually 3 treadmills with the desks on them in my office at home and stuff like that. But I'll get up about 6 o'clock, get on the treadmill, walk for, probably an hour and a half or so, 3 miles an hour as I'm working and doing stuff, not really running. It's hard on my back, but I'll go through and just be working and doing that. I lost about 40 pounds, nothing compared to what you did, but I'll go through and work on that from probably like 6 to about 7:30. Get ready, get to work. 8 o'clock, 8:30. I'll do my top 6 form, get that done. From about 9 to 10, I'll work on training with my team, do some more Q&A. Maybe go to lunch with someone here, try and build some relationships, and then in the afternoon I spend a lot of time working on the technology. I'm doing, trying to find, okay, what are the pain points? How can we solve that? And what's the fastest way to be able to do that? And trying to be home by 4, 5, 6 o'clock. Spend time with my family. Got 3 little boys, 14, 11, and 6 that I just love. I've been married for about 20 years, and I usually put in a couple more hours at night, and my wife usually goes to bed around 10, and I'll work for a couple more hours or read till probably 12 or 1. I like the night, and always reading and trying to figure out what's the how can I improve, how can I get better, and that's pretty much what I do.
Yeah, I love it. And then one thing that I really like that you put on there is, so you start off taking care of your health, which I think is just so critical. Put yourself in the right. I think everybody needs to start off with some sort of activity. Just gets the blood flowing, puts yourself right in the right kind of physical state. But by 10 a.m., you've got your top 6 already done. Like, you've got the most critical activities done. You've got your activity on, and you got that stuff done by 10 a.m. So you've just created a brilliant day already by 10 a.m. So then
gives you good momentum.
Yeah. So then even if you get kind of sucked into the whirlwind and put in a reactive state, you already had an effective day. So
Yeah.
so you've talked a lot about books here and a lot about reading. I know in some of the questions I kind of sent you beforehand, I was going to ask you your 3 top favorite books. But I'm going to kind of tweak the question here because you've dropped a lot of books, and I know you're probably like me where it's tough to, we have so many favorite books. But like let's just say like you were to leave 2 books to your kids, like to pass on 2 books that you're like, hey, these are must reads that I really feel like you should read, and you can only leave them, maybe 2. What or your grandkids or whatever it may be. What would those like? What are those books that you feel like, dude, everybody's got to read?
I'm kind of a spiritual person, so I'd probably say, the scriptures, the Bible, and stuff like that. I think that there's a lot mentally and spiritually that if that's not right, and I'm definitely not perfect, but if those aren't right, it's kind of hard to succeed in business at a high level, I believe. But from a business standpoint, if I had to say 2, I would say, Ultimate Sales Machine is just really, really good, and I like the 4 disciplines of execution. I think that that's pretty awesome. I love the scoreboard strategies and the simplification in that. So if you haven't read like 4DX, that's pretty good. And I would say if I'm going to grab a bonus book, I would, probably right up your alley, a 10X. Grant Cardone's awesome too. He's a good motivator, kicking the butt.
Yeah, love it, man, love it. All right, dude. So this industry is always changing. I know we're getting long on time, and I know you got a busy afternoon, evening ahead of you with the family. So try to go quick on these. So this industry is always changing and shifting fast, right? So what are some things that if you see realtors, team leaders, and even owner brokers of, these whether it's big franchises or whatever, like what are some things that if they don't start doing and shifting and moving and adapting to, they're going to become extinct? Like things are just changing so rapidly, and with exponential growth of technology. Like what are some of those shifts you're seeing? Like, dude, if you guys don't start changing, you're going to die.
It's absolutely all about bringing value. Just intense value. That I think our industry is more pressure to become a commodity, that instead of asking yourself what is everybody else doing in our industry, look outside the industry. Figure out, what are you passionate about, and how can you bring value to either your team, your industry, or your clients. That you just don't follow the masses. You've got to bring massive value. If you bring value, you're going to get paid in proportion to how you impact their life. So just find a way to impact them and run the other way of everybody else, whatever they're doing.
Yep. Yep. Love it. Okay. So, you just mentioned you got your three boys and you're home at night and, I know one thing, and I've struggled with this, my decade of entrepreneurship here. And I know a lot of all other entrepreneurs struggle with this. They're on this call, but, I don't believe there's life balance, but, we've got to somehow, okay, I've got to put in my work and then make sure that I'm not failing as a father or a husband. And so, in addition to be a very successful entrepreneur and again, I mean, it's not just your real estate business. I know we went deep there, but you're also a very successful software developer, real estate coach, but you're also, man, I mean, and I know you personally, you're just an amazing family man, amazing father, awesome husband. How do you do it? How do you achieve that level of success without sacrificing those relationships with your family?
You gotta, I'm definitely, just to say, I'm not perfect, but you're always trying to, I think you hit on a good point. There is no such thing as balance in real estate. Everyone talks about that. It's always a counterbalance, that you're always out of balance in some area, and you just got to say, okay, how am I out of balance in work, in my family, and you got to make sure that those things are taken care of. Your kids, they spell love Time. Last year I was able to take about 30, 40 days, and we went on an RV trip across the country. Just did nothing. I worked for maybe 10 minutes a day, and we sold, I think, 47 houses that month, right? Just chilling with my kids on the beach, driving everywhere all over the East Coast, and it was just awesome, right? Just spending, 24/7 with them, which is probably a lot. But there was a quote from a great religious man a long time ago. He says, "No success in life can compensate for failure in the home," and I really believe that. But at the same point, I love work, man. I got to tell you, I'm passionate about it. I'd be bored out of my skull if I didn't have anything to do. So it's what I love. I love to do these things. If I quit, if I stop doing stuff within about a week, I think I'd be crazy. I don't know what I would do. So I do it because I enjoy it. But you also have to balance all the other different things and make sure that your family's getting their needs met.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So okay, so let's talk about, so you've got what you've got, but let's say just who knows, hypothetically, if you lost everything, or you had to move to another state and start all this over, you lost everything, you wiped out, don't have money in the bank, however you have the knowledge that you have right now, like what are the maybe 1, 2, 3 things that you would do immediately, knowing what you know now, if you had to start over, to go out there and recreate this empire that you built in real estate?
If I had to do it over again, if I was here in this market, I would, I would just be hustling. Here I'd be probably doing some open houses and even door knocking or whatever. If I got kind of dropped into a different market, I really wouldn't be opposed to, it might seem crazy, I wouldn't be opposed to just finding the biggest agent in town or someone that I really connected with and going to work on their team for a year or two to build up an understanding of the area and learning how business is done, because business is a little bit different in each market, but I think you can never learn enough from people that are already winning. So as weird as it is, I'd probably go work for somebody else for a little while, build that up, and then probably not forever, but I wouldn't be opposed to working for somebody else. I don't know if that's a weird answer.
Yeah, no, I think it's an awesome answer, dude. I mean, it's everybody else does it. Everybody goes and works, does an apprenticeship or does a mentorship,
Exactly.
and it's the biggest mistake that I do. If I could do it all over, because I probably pissed away, I don't know how many millions hours and trying to recreate the wheel when I could have just went and worked for you and been that much more ahead, right? So
exactly, me too.
Yeah, I dig it. So, so in addition to running this team, you've got your software developer. I know we talked a little bit about it, but kind of going not from what it's doing in your real estate team, but you've created this software, you've got this out there. Maybe what are some of the other things that the system does? Because one thing that most agents don't, or not, I shouldn't say most, but there's a lot of agents in this business that don't even have a database, which the number one
Mm-hmm.
asset in this business is your connection with your database. You got to have a database. You've got a lot of tools out there. It's a brilliant, awesome, amazing system. It is a system that you sell, and I've seen all the back
Mm-hmm.
end, and I love it, man. I mean, it's a brilliant system. One thing that I think that makes you so successful with the system is it's not just a real estate system. It's not like, I've used so many over the years that you stroke the check and they're like, here it is. You've got this
Yeah.
system, you're delivering the system, but it's hardcore coaching. It's almost more like you have this coaching product that's backed with this brilliant system that allows them to grow their business. So, I mean, what can you kind of tell of our people about the system? As well as I know you also do a lot of one-on-one coaching and some other stuff there to help agents that aspire to be team leaders and create this epic business like you've done. Let's kind of talk about that a little bit with your software, with your coaching, what you're doing there, how everybody can get a hold of you, check it out and look into it if they want to do that as well.
Sure, you can. I mean, CurtisJohnsonCoaching.com, and the technology's positioning for profits. Or you can go to P4PRealestate.com, and really what it does is exactly like what you said. I've worked with some great technology over the years, but at the same point, I just didn't think it did a good enough job on the selling side. It was really good for buyers, but it wasn't good for a lot of the different stuff. And so, a partner of mine, Don Wenner back in Pennsylvania, between the both of us, sold I think 1,070 something houses just in the last 12 months. He's crushing it. It's the only system we use, and we just built it for our teams. It said, hey, here's all the things that we need to be able to see what's working, to be able to see how are buyer leads being worked, how are listing leads, how can we follow up better, how can we automate all these processes, how can we generate more leads from the websites, how can we automatically develop all these different branded, unbranded websites, and really just built everything from a team leader standpoint instead of a computer nerd standpoint. I'm not a computer nerd, and that's really what we just built to be able to say, what do we need for our business? And you can see a demo there. It goes through how we generate leads and really kind of like what I talked about. We just try to do everything a little bit different. And make sure you capture and convert the highest number of leads. So we just do that, and then over the years, I've done some different training and stuff like that, but I really haven't, I didn't really want to take on any clients to do any coaching, whatever. But so many people using the system just said, hey, I want more handle, I want more of this, and so that's really kind of what I do with a select few clients is help with them, help fix their business and then scale it, so that they can, go from 80, 100 deals up to 3, 4, 5, 600 deals and really help scale their business.
Yeah, and coach them how to build that business and have a life where they can take a month off and still close 40, 50 deals. And and I think it's so cool, man. When you told me that, and this is just kind of on a personal note, but when you told me you were getting into coaching, I was so stoked to hear that because you are so amazing at what you do. And we see. Not saying that it's good or bad. There's a lot of great coaches in our industry, but a lot of them have been so detached, either haven't really been in the industry or been detached from the industry. Maybe they were a rock star 30 years ago, but things change. And not saying that they're still not bringing value. I mean, that's not what I mean, but there's really nobody out there that's like, hey, I'm not just coaching you on this. I've actually built it. I've done it. And I'm doing it today while I'm coaching you. So I'm coaching you on today how to do business in 2015. And
Yeah, and I don't work with clients. I haven't worked with clients more than like one or two. There's a couple Cardinal players that I wanted to meet that I work with. They came in the office and I met with them and stuff. But for the most part, I work through my team. But I meet with them every day, and I'm getting feedback on the technology on this and how's this working, and that's really how I'm able to coach or do whatever. But it is different than someone that maybe has been in a different industry. They might bring something different, but at the same point, talking to someone that's been through and been able to sell a bunch of houses or whatever, it's kind of a different feel than maybe someone that's never actually been in the game. It is a little bit different, in that regard, I guess.
Yeah. Yep, love it, dude. Love it, man. So again, you guys, that's CurtisJohnsonCoaching.com, and then Positioning for Profits is the software. It's like I said, I've seen all the back end with Curtis being local and us being good buddies. I've been able to see the system firsthand, and it's absolutely amazing. And for help. Probably the same amount that you invest in your Starbucks budget a month, you get a kick-ass system that allows you to go out there and probably get a 20x return on the system. So to me, if you don't have a system, it's a no-brainer to go out there looking at and get that.
Well, I appreciate that.
You got it, man. So what's next for you? What's not just your doing? What's next for your team? What's next for Curtis Johnson? I know you got a lot of ventures going on.
I'm having a lot of fun. So I'm trying to do what I can to see what I can, what it's going to take for you to hire me. And so far that hasn't been working very good. So I'll just kind of lay in the weeds until you're ready to hire me and, try and go on with my life and stuff. But no, I mean, seriously, I just love, hanging out with winners and people that push me and that, make me want to be better. I want to see, what the best my real estate team can be. I want to grow as a leader. I want to, see how great the technology can be, and if I can be able to scale things a little bit better and make life easier and better, and try and see if I can help people's lives. I love hearing from people that, hey, you helped me make an extra $10,000-$20,000 this month or whatever. It's kind of like when you bring keys to a new buyer and, they thought they were going to be renters forever. There's just a magic that happens, and it's kind of the same thing, maybe on a different scale, but when you're really helping a business owner or you're helping someone run a real estate team, that's kind of exciting. I love my team. I still have a lot of fun. I love real estate. Seems very competitive to me, but still just a lot of fun because when you screw up in real estate, it tells you right away. I mean, the market will tell you. And the same thing is if you do things right, you're able to kind of get some good bumps in it. So it's pretty fun. I just enjoy it.
A couple of years ago, you made a comment to me. You're like, dude, I want to build my team to 100 agents, and you're like, it's just something that like I've never heard of anybody done it, so I want to do it. So, is that still a goal of yours to get to 100?
I think about that, and then I'm kind of an impatient person, so. I think I'd have to be, what would I have to be like as a leader and different things, and I want the results that come with that, but I think I've got to change my focus a little bit, probably from, when I said that is, the focus shouldn't be on the number of people, it should be on whatever the result is, and if I need 100 people to do that, then that's fine. If I can do it in 30, then that's fine too. So I'm always looking for a challenge or whatever, but nobody wants to be second, and since you're crushing it like you are, I don't want to always be looking, at the bottom of your shoes as you run by and stuff like that.
Whatever, man.
No, but I'm having a good time. I don't know what the number is, but I definitely want to improve and get our team. I just want to be a better leader for our team for sure.
Yep, dig it, man. And dude, that's awesome about the 40 pounds. I haven't seen you for several months. So I had no idea, man. That's amazing, dude. 40 pounds in 6 months is killer. You got to be feeling amazing. So congrats on that.
Yeah, well, not quite 100. What was your total? Was 100 what? What was
118 pounds. But here's what it is. When I say that, it's probably more like 300 pounds because you lose 40, then you gain 50, and then you lose 60, and then but then once I got serious about it, then it was 276. And then at my lowest, I was about mid 150s, and then I've been able to keep it off now for almost a decade, and all of that. And
That's awesome.
It's a game changer, man. It's and just kind of like you talked about. I don't think that when I coach certain clients, I'm like, dude, if you do nothing different in your business, but we just start improving your health, your business is gonna improve because you're gonna have more energy, more confidence, more certainty, and it's all integrated. It's like if I take care of my health, my marriage improves, my relationship with my kids improves. I have more energy. I'm rolling with them, and it all goes together. So I like.
Well, you're an inspiration to everybody out there. I mean, not just from your business, but personal life and everything else. So just keep pushing us, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, love that, man. I greatly appreciate those kind words, dude. And what you and I, dude, into this month, we are being auctioned off here locally. So we got this event for the Care Fund. It's a charity event, and Curtis and I both got asked to be a part of it, where we get auctioned off to realtors, and they get an hour, 2 hours, or whatever it is with each of us for coaching and all of that. So with that, we got to get intro to music, and they asked us to pick out our theme song. Did you pick out a theme song? And what do you think?
No, I haven't yet, but I did see that. I'm like, hopefully, like Thunderstruck or something like that's not already taken. It's some AC/DC song or something like that. But dude, I gotta tell you, this is like kind of stressing me out. I'm thinking it reminds me of like junior high on like Valentine's Day when you kind of like wait and see if the girl you like is gonna bring you a Valentine or not. If like, man, if I'm like the lowest auction off person, this is gonna be stressful for me.
Nah, it's all good. It's all fun, and you won't be, dude. I'll take that card out of it for you, so you don't have to worry about that. And yeah,
Oh
I
my
threw the
goodness.
theme song just out for my team, dude. I'm just like, you guys pick it, man. And I don't know if it'll be appropriate because it's for the Care Fund
What is it? What'd you get?
everybody on my team recommended "Work Bitch" from Britney Spears, just because.
Oh my gosh, awesome.
So I'm like, well, dude, I don't know if I need to be rocking out to Britney Spears at this deal plus you know, that song. So, all right, man. Before we wrap up here,
Hilarious.
dude, again, I mean, you've done so much. We've got our listener base, our real estate professionals, non-real estate professionals, entrepreneurs. We got lenders, broker owners. Any last word? I know we hit a lot of amazing points, but any last words of advice that you can really give to these people you feel like they need to hear to really go out there and crush it and dominate and really change their life, create the life that they truly desire.
I think the best thing anybody can do is just try to surround yourself with the type of people you want to become. So, go find if money's your big thing, find wealthier friends to hang out with. If health is your big thing, go to the gym. Go find some skinny friends. Find some people that are out walking or doing stuff. But you're going to become more likely than not who you surround yourself with. So, you don't have to be a victim. Your feet aren't in cement. You're not. We're in a free country. You can move around. You can do whatever you want. You can find whatever solution you've got. So just take control of your life and surround yourself with people that make you want to be a better person, that want to, and what happens is you'll catch some of that and then you'll improve other people's lives. So just be part of the solution and not really be a victim about it.
Yeah, love it, man. And so best way for everybody to reach you if they have maybe just some follow up questions here, or again, I know we talked about your coaching site and a position for profits.
Sure.
Is that the best way for people to reach out to you if they have follow up questions or maybe a personal question for you? Or is there a better way to communicate with you?
Yeah, you can. You can go to, like I said, CurtisJohnsonCoaching.com is probably the easiest one, or you can email me, Curtis@CurtisJohnson.com. You can email me, and I usually check that once a day as well. So, but love to catch up with people, or you can friend me on Facebook and touch base with me there.
Awesome. Well, again, my friend, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure, absolute honor, and to our listeners out there, you guys. I know I end every show talk is saying this, but all this information, I mean, you just heard from one of the best guys that's ever existed on the planet at what he does. I mean, we're talking almost 2 hours that we're rolling on here with of amazing content that I'm sure is coaching content.
Wow, has it really been that long? I'm sorry, I
No,
talked
it's
too much. Sorry.
no, I love it, man. I could sit here and talk to you all day, man. So, so you got 2 hours of just this amazing, awesome content that I'm sure his coaching clients pay a pretty penny for. So, you've got all this amazing information, but information without execution, without implementation is really just delusion. So take all this amazing information, you guys, implement immediately. Make up that rule. Hey, I'm going to take out the 3 top things I learned. I'm going to implement these in 48 hours. Get out there and execute. Those that implement and execute are the difference that between winners and losers when it comes to business, right, or any aspect of life. So make sure you're executing. Make sure you're implementing. Keep crushing it. And again, Curtis, thanks so much for being on the show, my friend. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Joshua.
All right, you guys, go out.
Thank you.
You got it, my friend. So you guys go out there and dominate. Thank you for listening and have an awesome day. We'll see you next time.